All right, we are live. And this is the Live with Sondra show. And boy, do I have a show for you today. I'm really excited about this guest for a number of reasons. One, because I love to showcase really cool tech, and this is some really cool tech that is being used in our parks today. I'm also really excited about this next guest because I love the idea of people who find creative ways to not only create the tech but apply it to our industries. So I don't want to leave you all in suspense, so I'm going to get to it with this guest, and I want to give you a little bit of an idea of who we're going to be talking to today. Today, we're going to be talking to the CEO and founder of DraftServ Technologies. If you don't know who that is already, you're going to find out here in just a moment. And this person has 40 years in hospitality with a deep expertise in scalable beverage solutions. The patented tech transforming beverage dispensers into smart integrated devices. He's the former founder of multiple restaurant chains with successful exits. And what he cannot live without is staying connected to family, community, and this industry. So we're going to be talking about the tech behind the tap and self-service in food and beverages. Will you please help me by welcoming our next guest to the show, Jose Hevia? And let's see where he is. Jose, welcome to the show. I
Hey,
hope
thank
I
you.
hope that bio was okay. Is there anything
That,
you need to
that,
add to
that,
that?
that's better than I deserve. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm really excited to talk to you today. And as I kind of mentioned on before we brought you up on the stage, one of the things that I'm most excited about talking to you today is because there's something really cool about people who develop innovation in maybe areas of our parks and our attractions that we might not be thinking about. And you've done that.
Well, thank you. Those are, I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, we're constantly trying to listen to the industry, listen to our clients, and evolve our technologies and our solutions so that they bring real value, right? I mean, our approach really isn't to build an idea and then they will come. It's really to work with the industry and our partners and solve their problems along with them. I've found that, while short term, that may take some time and investment to accomplish, but long term, it's what brings real value to the industry.
Yeah, for sure. And just for those who might be unfamiliar with DraftServe, how would you describe what makes it unique? And what I am curious too is like what inspired you to pursue this type of innovation?
Yeah, sure. I mean, what we do today is a little different than what inspired me to start, right? We've evolved. We've been around for a little while, a little over 10 years now. So, today, what we do is we just take all those ordinary dispensers that are in the world today, fountain machines, frozen drink machines, draft beer systems, bean to cup coffee dispensers, and we just convert those into smart and connected devices that are then capable of controlling their own dispense, capturing data, and then integrating into POS or cashless payment systems. And from there, our clients build out all types of automated self-serve solutions in their venues. And by and large, our venues are, high traffic, high visibility places, lots of people, short windows of time, where they really want to take dispensers they already have and convert those into self-serve integrated solutions, right? So we deliver a software platform to existing hardware that already exists in the world. So that's our approach today. And one thing that's truly unique about what we do versus some of the competitors that are out there is we have an open platform to do that with, right? We don't try to create a closed loop RFID cup widget solution that only works on some dispensers, only with our cups, only with one thing, right? We sit down with the retailers themselves and say, what do you use? Do you use room key? Do you use bracelets? Do you use QR coded cups? What is the medium you want to use for your guests? And we will build the solution to that. And by having an open platform that unlocks that potential and then enables those solutions, like I said, we bring real value. So we stay out of the widget game and try to stay in the solution game. But to answer the heart of your question, how did we get started? I started putting self-serve beverage technologies in my own restaurants 17 and 18 years ago, when I was a restaurateur, to solve some of my own problems and create unique experiences. And it really grew from there.
Well, and I think what's really cool about what you just said is create a unique experience.
Mhm.
We're hearing the president and CEO of IAPA was just on stage at the last IAPA North American Summit. He said technology is a part of the experience. So I think
Right.
what's really interesting about what you just said is that more and more we're seeing there are people who are almost demanding that technology be a part of the experience that they're going to have when they visit our parks and attractions. And what's really cool about DraftServ being kind of agnostic, right, in terms of what devices you can hook this technology up to, the sky's kind of the limit in terms of what's possible. You mentioned the cups. I know we have one mutual attraction that we work with. They've got the barcodes on
Mhm.
the annual pass holder cups.
That's right. Yes.
And and what a cool experience that is for those pass holders, just knowing they can just walk up and take care of those refills for the season without the lines, without the hangry kids. I mean, that's always
Right.
my problem. I got 3 kids and it's hot and they're hangry and I'm trying to just get them a beverage, so it's nice to have this convenience that you're providing. And
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And I mean, it's, first and foremost, a lot of the savvy operators out there realize, if folks will get in line, but but you want to minimize that, right? So if
sure.
they can make their beverage decision for their whole family once for the day and get in line once and then have that solved, and then scan and pour on their own for the rest of the day and let software control the rest, then that is certainly a value add to their experience throughout the day. And to your point, any millennial minded consumer, at the very least, I think views integrated, personalized, customized technological solutions as something that speaks to them. It makes their experience more relevant. It's now a normal expectation for them to see these things no matter where they go in the world, right? So if they can personalize and customize their journey and their choices, do it on their time. They want what they want when they want it. And if we can leverage technology to deliver that, what we should be doing that.
Yeah, which kind of like, we talk about the solution being scalable and very efficient for the operations. What are some of the biggest challenges that operations tradition? Yeah, sorry, I have to start over. I got tongue tied. What are the biggest operational challenges traditional beverage setups face today? And I guess we're talking about those that are not using this technology.
Yes, the great part is that we use what's already there. We use existing dispensers that you already have. We just make those guest facing, and then we make them smart and connected, right? Um, with that said, that's also the challenge. If you want to create a self-serve hydration station using your existing fountain equipment, you need to move that heavy dispenser along with those soda bibs, and you'll need power and water and drain and some infrastructure. So actually, let's say the scaling limiter for our technology is not the tech, it's the legacy hardware dispenser infrastructure required to create new dispense points that are not behind a counter, that are guest facing, readily
Sure.
available to the guests. That is the greatest barrier that we see when we go venue to venue, and that's why lots of our clients will start in one area with a few dispensers, and then over time really grow their footprint. Right, as an example, we started at Hershey Park in Pennsylvania 5 years ago, I think on 4 dispensers. And now 5 years later, they run the entire venue on about 40 dispensers all around the park. They run a annual pass holders program where people are scanning loyalty cards and mobile devices. They run a daily refillable collectible vessel program. So now 5 years later, they've scaled this thing to where it does lots of things for lots of people all over the venue.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. What I think is interesting is you mentioned the footprint being one of the biggest things, but what we see so many times in attractions is there is a lot of unused space that could be otherwise you could put in these dispensers or move them to that area, which then gives the season pass holders access to these beverages. And you've talked a little bit about the pain point that the operator would face, but with regards to how the self beverage technology reduces friction for the guests, what does that look like? Or what have you seen?
You mean in regards to the challenges or the solutions?
I'm reducing that friction for them. We
Yes.
talked about the lines.
Yeah, right. So exactly. So when they don't have to get back in line, it's wild. It's sort of an ancillary benefit for our clients as well. Hershey Park, as an example, one of the first things we saw when we started working with them, they started selling more hamburgers and hot dogs as a result. When the lines are shorter, people aren't afraid to get in them, right? So not only did we bring the lines down, but we created a more profitable line for them. And really, guests were grateful not just to get the beverages, get beverages what they wanted when they wanted, but they also now could get food when they wanted to as well, right? So it unlocked quite a few things there. The greatest friction point, believe it or not, is the scan itself. Everyone knows how to walk up to a fountain soda machine, for example, and pour their own beverage. They've been doing it their entire lives. They've never had to scan first. So when they see the dispenser, they oftentimes won't even notice our equipment or the scanning equipment there or that necessary step. And while it's very intuitive, super simple, you just scan a code and then you begin pouring. That extra step as a new step for folks can be a friction point. So we try to work as close as we can with our clients to create lots of signage, lots of communication to let folks know that there is that scan step, if you will.
Yeah, that's pretty. I mean, but that's just a matter of communicate, and that's not even a friction point really for this technology. It's more of a friction point about communicating and how you market it to your guests, right? Like they don't know if you don't tell them.
That's exactly right. It's just communication. That's all it is. You might call it education to some degree, but it's just communication. But on the dispenser headers, we'll put scan pour go. On our scanners, we'll put scan pour go. Even the vessels themselves may say scan pour go on there. So it's quite simple. And to be honest with you, a lot of folks, the number of folks that I see that say this is really cool to scan their vessel or their phone to get a beverage. It's fun to watch people actually enjoy the process.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. One thing I think it was interesting that you said too was that you noticed. I think it was Hershey Park, right? That you were mentioning their food sales went up, which makes sense if you really consider that you've now taken all of those only drink only people out of the line, which
Yes.
is a hesitation for most people when they're hungry or have hangry kids or even a reason why people in the old days, remember we still used to be able to bring food into the parks.
Right. Yes.
I
Right.
hear that conversation quite often in the discussions that we have with the parks that we work with about not having outside food or drink. Any of these conveniences, I think, make that case a little easier for the guests, right? Because it's super convenient. It's going to be a lot easier going out to your car.
Yep. And also all the employees behind the counters, they don't make the drinks anymore. They just hand out the cups. They don't have
Yeah.
to make the drink. They don't have to make the refill. They have less to do in that regard. So that gives them more time to focus on the food or the other items that they choose to sell.
Yeah, in preparation for this call today, I took my husband to one of those beer gardens where they
Yeah.
have the tap and go kind of drink systems. And and I know they're probably competitors, so we're not going to talk about them mentioning
Yeah.
the beer.
No, that's
But
okay.
honestly, I don't know who actually did the systems, but it was a card system, so I'm sure it's very similar. But the thing that I noticed the most was how much more engaged their staff was
Right.
when we were free to go get beverages whenever we wanted, to try whatever we wanted. We just had a lot more autonomy that when it came to ordering our food. And sorry, you just gave me this thought when you mentioned about how the food increases. It makes sense to me because not only was their team more engaged than in most restaurants I've ever been to, and they were happy and they weren't
Right.
running around grabbing drinks. They were just there and present. And it was just a much better experience because the team, I think, has a lot of fatigue taken off of them when we're able to self-serve in this way that makes sense, right?
Yeah, as a hospitality veteran myself, we preach service and then we inundate everybody with tasks, right? And then they
Sure.
become taskmasters and not service oriented. So when we can leverage technology to handle the tasks, we can now unlock or empower these people to be service focused, right? And enjoy the people side of the business and the service side of the business. It really helps to focus or refocus energy and efforts, I think, in those environments.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, my husband said to me, the first server came up to, he's like, man, this is a great server. Then the next one comes over and he's like, that's a great one too. Like, how is that possible in one restaurant? And
Right,
I think
right.
it's, as you said, they're not inundated with tasks and they're really able to focus on what's important at that moment. And even the bigger spend, the food can oftentimes be the bigger spend. But at the same time, when you can just go pour drinks yourself, you also aren't thinking about it. So I'm sure there is some cost benefit to the business in terms of how much more revenue this creates. Because kind of out of sight, out of mind too, right? I'm not having to ask the server for it. So I was also spending a little bit more money.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, it changes, it changes the guest journey a bit, right? But when you have your staff in a venue focused on service and not tasks, they're focused on the guests. They're focused on people. It's I believe in hospitality. My restaurant may sell chicken wings and draft beer, and your restaurant may sell pizza, or and you may go into like amusement venues, any type of hospitality venue, let's say. We're all in the people business. We're just selling different products to people.
Right.
And the vast majority of our venues, we have lots of employees, lots of headcount, if you will, lots of headcount coming through the door as guests. We're in the people business. And the more we can focus on the guest journey and on the people, the more I think we all win. I mean, look at Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A was early innovators and just such forward thinkers. Back in the day, when all the fast food folks were having you do your own self-serve refills, they were actually filling up, Coca-Colas themselves. And when I asked them, why do you do that? The thought wasn't around, it's one less thing for us to do. That it was around, it's one more touch point for the guest. Every time we get to make a guest happy, we win. So we want to touch the guest more, help the guest more. And so those touch points, if you will, on the service side are winners. And if your operation, like the experience you had, where the people you're interacting with are very connected to you and your experience, it's so much more value and service oriented to you. So it's just reframing what we do. And again, leveraging technology to just improve that experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I want to shift a little bit because I so value your time and appreciate you being here. But I'm curious about the integrated technology in action, right? So, how does your platform integrate with? You've mentioned integrating with existing equipment, but integrating maybe with existing POS systems and
Right.
or ticketing systems to create that seamless experience. I know you mentioned like they might have their season pass on their phone, and that's the method in which they access these drinks.
Right, that's exactly right. So, yeah, like you mentioned before, we are agnostic to beverage. We don't care what beverage they choose. Their beverage brand partner. We stay out of that. They can choose any beverage dispenser they want. They can work with any manufacturer in the world they want, and obviously multi-venue operators. They have different beverage partners maybe around the country, different
Sure.
equipment from venue to venue. They have this sort of that ever-changing world, if you will. So the fact that we stay agnostic to all that is certainly helpful. And then to your point or question, on the technological side, we basically said we need a scanner that can read anything on the front, right? A room key, a QR code, an RFID tag, a mobile device, a credit card, a wristband, a ticket. And then we need that exact same device to connect into any beverage dispenser on the back end. So over COVID, when we all had a hospitality break, if you will, we worked super hard on that one device. that could read anything on the front and connect any dispenser on the back. And so when we sit down with a client, we don't pitch or sell a device or a singular solution. We ask them, what are your beverage programming goals? What are your operational requirements or KPIs? What are these authentication methods that you already use in your venue, right? College and universities use a student, chef's club type card. Cruise ships and hotels use room keys. Other places want to use, a wristband or a POS receipt. They all have their different medium that they prefer to use for their guests as their currency, if you will. So we just connect to that. So we will connect to what you want to pour the beverages you want out of the dispensers you already have. So we don't sell one package solution. We listen to our clients and then bring all those things together to deliver the solution that they need. And then what we find is not only does that bring the value that they require up front, but then it's a limitless, evolution of solutions. What they learn after season 1 or season 2, they can then evolve and adapt. And let's say they're successful in the world of fountain with the wristband. In year 3, they may say, you know what, we'd also like to bring in a subscription package via loyalty app or program on a mobile device. And we'd also like to introduce frozen drinks to our fountain package. But once our platform's in place, then we just simply add those periphery devices or technologies to their existing platform so that it's seamless for their guests.
Yeah. No, that's awesome because, at the end of the day, what you're also encouraging is collaboration. And collaboration, especially after the pandemic, we've seen it, is a new currency in many ways for our attractions and parks, and being able to figure out these different ways to better improve the experience for their guests. And, that also makes me wonder, when you are integrating this equipment or even with other technologies, what data do you see operators extracting from these beverage systems that also might allow them to act on that data to make different decisions about the business? Because as you know, I don't know about you, but when I started in technology in the attractions 25 years ago, in the old days, I would have to go to every single location and install our systems. And it was weeks on end that I would be out there. But what I always thought was funny was because at that time in the early 2000s, many of our operators, they had never worked with technology. They were still on cash drawers and old cash registers, Samsungs, very machines versus the type of technology we use today. One of the things that I would hear all the time is, well, we get a feeling about this time that this is what's happening in the business. And when we implemented these systems, and I'm not going to call anybody out because there are a lot of them that told me this, but we would not find that their feelings were totally off, because it is data that you need to be able to make those better business decisions. And it's very difficult to collect those data. At that time, it was difficult to collect the data. Today, I can't even imagine what kind of data you're collecting, or at least insights into the business that you can give them.
Yes. And, the data comes 2 ways. So, with our open platform, we give every operator they have real-time visibility and control over every single dispenser and beverage line on the platform. So they see what they're pouring, when they're pouring, time of day, refill rates, where in the venue they're pouring. And then probably just as significantly or more, what or when they're not pouring. So there's the one data point of, let's call it the pouring or user data, that's super important and valuable to understand trends, both with their guests from a decision-making standpoint, and how their beverage programs are performing. And then secondarily to that is the data points around uptime and usage. This is visibility into things they never really had before. We have clients that are all over the spectrum with that. Some just want the transactional value. They want to make sure everything's being rung up and accounted for and paid for as they go. And then we have folks all the way on the other side that are really using a lot of this data to tweak how they're operating, where they're positioning dispense points, the products they're offering, and then tweaking their beverage programs to perform better based on their learnings, right? So one thing we're seeing right now in beverage trends, especially where people are getting much more value oriented, we're seeing last year and again this year, consumer are a little more value oriented than maybe they were prior, is what a lot of folks are calling barbell pricing, right? So on our systems, we're seeing a lot of folks offering one or two limited fill programs. It's called a medium or a large. So if you want to spend a little bit of money, you can and get your beverage. And if you want to jump to that collectible, refillable, unlimited fill vessel, you may jump from a $5 limited fill to a $15 or $20 program. So that barbell on both sides. So you're giving your guests, you can have the value option on that side or controlled dispense, or you can go to the unlimited fill for the day. So you're kind of giving them a choice of what they want and different value points, if you will.
Yeah, and you're meeting everybody where they need to be at that point.
Yep.
And one of the things that you that I think is interesting, because I have 3 kids, they're all teenagers now, so they go hang out at our park, our local theme park.
Yeah.
They're prepping for that right now. We renewed their passes, but one of the big perks that they had on the upgraded meal package, which is not cheap, right? It like almost it multiplies your season pass by like 3 or 4 times, which I'm thrilled for the parks, because I'm not even questioning it. And one of the biggest values on that is that drink cup, that refill, and it's free.
Yeah.
But only free with that one package. So, to me as a mom, and I know my kids are going to be there all day, it makes sense to buy them the more food and the free drinks. And it also gets me to spend a lot more on that front end when it comes to, preparing them for the park, and also setting expectations, I think, is important. We want people to keep coming in. They need to understand what they at least be able to budget to some degree. I know that we like it when people spend a little extra in retail and food, but
we do. It does that. Hershey Parks. I know I've mentioned them in the past, but they've built out their program over the years, and it's really they tick all the boxes now. It's really something to see. But they offer an annual pass holder beverage subscription. It's a one-time fee. And then whenever you're in the park, you get your refills all day. And you pay a fee once for the year. So a similar thing to what you were mentioning. And it's a great value proposition for the loyal local members. But to your point about budgets, I learned that lesson in the cruise industry. We're very heavy in the cruise industry where we do room key integrations, where guests just swipe the room key and pour a beer or pour a soda, and it goes on their room bill. And we do the accurate measurement and control the beverage type thing. But they learned a long time ago, that 80% of their beverage packages they sell before you get to the ship, and so it's already pre-bought. So what they found is the average person, if you're bringing let's call it $100 a day to spend on whatever you want, if you pre-bought your package, you still bring $100 a day to spend on the ship. So they found that they were able to, pre-subscribe folks to packages. And then their daily spend was the same as it was prior, and the net of that obviously is a higher sale per cap.
Yeah. Oh, I believe it, because what we see even in the data that we have is, if I share an experience that's a paid, it's an additional paid experience inside of an attraction, a lot of people will purchase that ahead of time because it's an option that we sell to them. However, there are still people that purchase when they get there. They're prepared for it though. And, as a mom, I love the idea of not being able to have to say no to the kids. So I like knowing, because I can tell them like, hey, we're not going to do that one. And mostly I don't do that one because I'm not going to fly from be dropped from a bungee. Yeah. It's just not, that's not, I'm not there yet. My sister climbed last year with IAPA to the top of one of the tallest coasters in the United States. And I'm like, I would never do that. Nope. I love this industry. Yeah, not me. Well, I'm curious, when we talk about cost control and customization, how can attractions leverage automation to control pour sizes and reduce waste? And you mentioned a little bit of that with the cruise lines, but.
Yeah. So when a lot of our clients, when they introduced these packages, they kind of pre-subscribe them, if you will, right? They set them so you can get your medium, your large, your unlimited refill. They offer different options at different price points, and then people choose up front what they want, and and then the automation leads the day. So let's say someone orders a large fountain soda at 24 ounces. They get their cup with their code, and they go and they scan and they begin to pour. They may only pour 12 ounces in there because they have a lot of ice in there. So they still have their 12 ounces. It's good at any dispenser for the rest of the day or multi-day. They could show up 5 hours later on the other side of the park. They still have their 12 ounces available to them until they hit their limit, if you will. And a lot of our clients even see a perceived value from their guests in that if you bought that same 24-ounce soda and someone poured it for you and it was full of ice, you probably only got 12, 16 ounces of actual soda in it. But when you buy the 24 ounces of soda, you choose your ice level, you get all 24 ounces. So you actually get more fills, if you will. So it kind of helps in that regard. But, with that said, one thing we're seeing right now quite a bit are folks with a lot of sustainability initiatives in these venues where they're trying to get out of single-use plastics and beverages in these packages and moving to fountain or tap programs in refillable or reusable vessels. So sustainability is actually starting to jump in. It's originally started through, we want automation, we want some of the savings, we want to increase our sales and per cap spends. But now we're seeing a push into sustainability initiatives as well.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And, definitely reducing the amount of waste that these parks are creating or the guests are creating when you have these initiatives in place. Well, we're getting close to the end of the show, but I have some big questions for you. One being more about the future of beverages and attractions and kind of what trends you foresee shaping this industry, primarily with beverages in high volume environments over the next 5 years. Do you have any insights for us? I mean, I feel like you might be one of those crystal balls I could talk to and get this kind of information from.
Yeah. So, you mean, what do I see coming on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, because this, if I'm being completely honest, I don't know that I would have seen this even 20 years ago being something that we're doing today. So this is such a fascinating conversation to me, even in somebody in tech. You know, I
Right.
I sometimes ask myself why I didn't think that big when I see these great inventions like what you're offering. So I'm curious
Yeah.
if you see like a big change happening over the next 5 years, or if you just see that this is the direction all parks are going to be in.
I think it's the direction all parks are going to be in for sure. The numbers really are astounding. They're really something else to see. It absolutely is the fastest, most efficient, most profitable way to do it, and also yields immediate guest satisfaction. So, in that way, it's a bit of a no-brainer. While we've been doing this a little over 10 years, I would argue that controlled self-serve or automated dispense is absolutely still in its infancy. We're still touching a very, very small piece of the beverage category, if you will. But where do I see the evolution going? It's in integration and partners. That's how it's combining layers of technologies together to continue to bring more holistic, integrated experiences to guests. And how do we partner my company with your company and other companies out there to the benefit of our, the retailers and the guests themselves? That's why we decided to go with an open-ended platform and stay agnostic to these things. And for us, it is all about partnership and collaborations. While you may see different applications all around the world with our clients, these were all their ideas. These were all collaborations they kind of brought to the table. And in most ways, we're merely a service provider. We're just connecting those ideas and technologies to a beverage platform for them. So, where the innovation will come from, I don't know, but it won't be from us. It'll be from our clients and other technology companies that we work with. So I think we have a lot to learn still.
Yeah, I love that sentiment for sure, because I feel the same way. Like I let the parks tell me what that future is gonna look like. And don't get me wrong, we as innovators and I would say integrators for most of our time
Mm-hmm.
here in this industry, we've always looked to our parks to drive this type of innovation, but also there were times where we were a little ahead of our time. And
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing
Yeah.
those types of tech being adopted. I'm sure that you probably saw this in a vision many years ago. You seem very visionary to me.
Mm.
And that's pretty cool to see because it means that we're not stopping here.
No, no.
We have a big job of getting this into all the parks, but also, I love what you mentioned about having these integrated experiences, making it seamless for the guest, allowing the guest their autonomy and to be empowered enough to go get their beverages, to really create, what did you call it? You said the hospitality, you said it, the service is more focused. And
Yeah, the focus on service, not tasks. Yeah.
yes, I love that.
Yeah.
That's definitely gonna be up there on one of our highlights, because
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
highlight recap, other recap.
Yeah, it's the culture you create, right? I
Yeah,
mean, there's lots of examples of it all around us. It's just kind of saying that as an organization that you're dedicated to those things, and you will work with partners and technologies and other, let's say advocates or kindred spirits that believe in those same things. And I think that's how we all get ahead.
yeah, I love that. Well, my last question for you is more of a personal insight. So I'm curious, with your experience being in hospitality for the past 40 years, and which I cannot believe that 40 years. But
Yeah.
the being a restaurateur and doing all that you've done, what's one lesson maybe that you can share with the audience that has remained true through all of the changes that we've seen and that you've seen over the last 4 years?
I think it's something to be a bit anticlimactic, something I already mentioned. And it's that kind of no matter what venue we're in or what we're selling or what we're marketing or providing, that we're in the people business. Both the people we work with every day and all of our guests that come through the doors. It comes down to people and their experiences and what they're doing, right? When earlier in my career, when we were building out, as many restaurants as we could, as fast as we could, um, we were fortunate to get a nice loyal following, and we'd have people who came into our places for years and years, and they could always tell you how they felt or why they came, their memories, and all these things. If I asked them what the bar was made of, they couldn't tell me, or what the color of the ceiling was, they couldn't tell me, or the color of the building, or so many things they couldn't tell me about all the details around them every single day. They could just tell me about how they felt or the experiences
Sure.
they had. So I kind of learned then that, yeah, we have to sweat a million details every single day, so that they don't have to. So that when they come in, they just seamlessly wander through our venues and have the experiences we hope they have and the memories we hope they create. And it's our job and our responsibility to just constantly take those cues and their feedback, and build those out, and be responsible for all the things that's required to do so.
Yeah. Hey, Jose, I really appreciate you being here on the show. It sounds like you have an amazing business, some amazing insights into how these organizations can change the experience for their guests and
Yeah.
be
Well,
more about people. Because I 100% agree. I think that what we're doing with technology will allow us to be more people focused. And this is certainly an industry that is about people. It is about memories. And I even if I just look at my own experiences, I've imprinted the really, really good ones
mhm.
and, also imprinted the bad ones, but that just means that I just don't go there. No, I don't go to those places that made me feel like that. Luckily, that never happens in our industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll say that we don't want that to happen in our industry. We have so many great
That's right.
resources like you that people can connect with in order to find these solutions and to make that people business a little bit better. If anyone watching or listening on our podcast would like to contact you, Jose, what's the best way to get a hold of you or your company?
Yes. So obviously on LinkedIn, they can reach out to me anytime via LinkedIn. They can DM me there, or feel free to just visit our website at www.draftserv without an e at the end.com. And yeah, I love connecting with folks. So anyone out there wants to reach out anytime.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights, who you are, all the amazing work that DraftServ is doing, and how you've been helping attractions out there. And we really appreciate you sharing that knowledge with us today.
No, great. Thank you very much, Sondra, for having me. I appreciate that, and I appreciate everything that you do for the industry out there. You were in this space long before I walked into it, and I learned stuff from you guys all the time. So thank you.
Hey, thank you, and I appreciate that. Well, we'll
Yeah.
see you soon.
All right. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that show as much as I did. I think there's something really cool about people who are thinking forward about where the industry's going, what kind of tools and technology you are going to need in your attraction. How are you going to make this experience better? And how are you going to focus on people better? And this has just been such a great show to me for so many reasons. One, because I've seen this stuff in action and I think it's pretty cool. And I think everybody needs to take a moment, go visit a park or an attraction or a restaurant that's using this type of technology and see why it can benefit you, your business, and your guests. I also want to thank everybody who works on this show. As you guys know, I love to end the show by thanking my team. There's a whole lot of people it takes to put this programming together for you, from finding the guests who are going to bring these actionable insights, this incredible information to you, but also prepping our guests for being on a live show. It's not easy to get up here. It's not easy to get up here and share your information. So I appreciate each and everybody who comes on the show, everybody who's involved in the creation of this programming, and to all of you out there watching and listening. And if you have any questions for Jose or me, feel free to throw that in the chat. We're both connected, especially on LinkedIn. If you are watching live on LinkedIn, hashtag replay so we know you are here. And if you're listening on the podcast networks, thank you so much for listening today. We appreciate you, and we'd love to hear from you. Have a great rest of your week. We're starting off this week, right? It's Monday, and I'm very excited to have this show playing over and over throughout the rest of my work week. And yeah, thank you for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys soon. Go out there and be great. Take care.